Hey, welcome everybody. It's time for the Esports Connection, where the esports industry goes to connect. Streaming to you live from, well, we'll call it the center of the esports universe here at the University of California, Irvine's Beal Applied Innovation Center. With our host, a host who, well, he knows the most, more than I do, Harrison Griffith. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Paul. Thank you for that lovely intro. Like Paul Roberts said, I am Harrison Griffith, your host, and welcome to the Esports Connection. We are streaming live from OC Talk Radio, and we're talking about the esports industry. We're learning about the business. We're learning how it's happening from the people making it happen, like our guest here, Adam Lopez. How are you doing, Adam?
Very good and very honored to be here. Thank you very much, Harrison.
Well, we're honored to have you. So, Adam here is the Esports Coordinator at Irvine Valley College. So, tell us a little bit about your position there. How would you describe it?
Sure. So we've been kind of figuring out what that looks like, what my position looked like. It's been changing throughout the whole process from the beginning, learning what to do, what works. And I think a good way to summarize what I do is I do my best to inspire students to take on projects that excite them and help them build up their portfolio in a meaningful way, and also assist their development in a way that is, I think, often neglected in education. So I do my best to set up support systems. I also serve as a connection point to represent the students' interests behind closed doors to the doors that they can't get to, and the things that I'm only capable of doing, and working with administration. And so, and also staying up to date with the esports industry, trying to see what's working best in the industry, see what's working best in collegiate, and bring that to Irvine Valley College, and just liberate people to do really fun and cool things that are just capable of bringing together communities that often aren't brought together, especially locally.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a very noble cause that you have there, working for kids. We love, I myself work with youth development also, so I really appreciate all the work you're doing out here. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in this industry. How did you, what was the genesis of your involvement with this?
Genesis, what a great word, because I started out on a Sega Genesis playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I think that's where my passion for gaming started. I think it was like 7, sounds right. Growing up on a ranch, I played video games often. And so that passion stayed with me for a long time. I think the first time I was really excited about something outside of music was playing video games, especially the online competitive games. I was drawn to StarCraft and especially World of Warcraft growing up. I loved playing World of Warcraft. I think it did a lot for me in my development. And so I grew this affinity for competitive gaming pretty early on. I started watching back in 2007, 2008, when it was really small, when we would get excited about 8,000 people watching a stream, and now that number is just way higher than it used to be. And I've always loved watching the best perform in a technological environment and see what was capable to be the best technologically. And even though I think that gaming is more of a simpler form in technology, there's rules that they abide by, and I just love it, and it's exciting to see. And I think there's a lot of passion here. So I've been an esports fan for a long time, and I also had the only thing that could get me away from video games was music. So I went down this route of being a music educator, and then really noticed that I loved it, and I wanted to go into education. So I started to pursue a music education degree. And while I was kind of going through, I went to Long Beach State, by the way, go Beach. And they were a fantastic program. They did a great job of keeping me up to date with what was considered best practice, like career education, project-based learning, Maslow's hierarchy, all these great things that I think are kind of missing in education. And I realized after hearing about UCI opening up a arena on campus, I found out about that through my esports club at Long Beach State. Mm-hmm. And I started to notice that esports was going to get big in education, and I loved it so much I thought I'd pivot. And so, actually, that's not true. I didn't notice I was going to pivot right away. I thought I would just add it to my resume and say, hey, by the way, as a new teacher, I also can provide a good esports club experience for your students. And maybe that would help encourage schools to hire me as a music educator. And then I kind of noticed that I was pretty good at it when I student taught at Woodbridge High School in Irvine. I went into the activities office and told them I wanted to support an esports club on campus. Oh, I missed something pretty important too. With World of Warcraft, I also played at a professional level. And so before this point, I messed up the whole chronological order. Sorry about that. But at one point, I loved it so much that I trained really, really hard and became a professional back in 2010. It was a very loose term of professional. I was sponsored by a website to make content, and I performed really well in arenas, which is the player versus player combat within World of Warcraft. And so I went. So now let's go back forward to Woodbridge. I went to the office. I told them I used to play professionally. And by the time I went back to my class, word had already gone out that I'm an ex-professional gamer, and people were excited about going to an esports club sort of meetup and doing something with esports. And so I noticed I was good at this, and so I kind of pivoted and started to talk with who I considered the best in the industry and offered my services for free and said, hey, whatever you need me to do, I will come in and I will help and assist. I'll let you know all about what I know about the esports industry, which was, I think, quite thick at that point compared to a lot of people in this space, because I had been watching almost every genre from 2007 on. I've seen a lot of the industry. I know what the community wants, and I thought I could help. And so that eventually led to me working with someone who's absolutely fantastic, Kevin Brown, and he was working with NASEF and the Orange County Department of Education, and just a fantastic educator who let me join him on a few projects. And so eventually Kevin met with our Dean of Athletics at Irvine Valley College, and the Dean of Athletics at Irvine Valley College quickly recognized that Kevin knew what he was talking about, and he said, okay, if there's anybody in Irvine who is ready to start a new collegiate program, who is it? So Kevin recommended me for that, and that's kind of how we got started.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's a lot there. But I noticed a few common themes actually with some things that you said. One is that you started off working for free in this industry, and that was actually something that we heard a lot talking to esports professionals at Level Up Expo, was that they started off just with raw passion for their whatever games or hobby that they had, and they started commentating for free, and eventually they just got so good at their craft or their art that people started paying them for it. That was interesting to hear you say that you somebody who's, I would consider you a more higher up in the esports industry than the average person that we met, but that you also started off a similar way. But something else you mentioned way back in the beginning was that you started off playing Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's something that I noticed a lot too, is that most gamers start off playing a lot simpler, less intense games. But obviously, there's not really that many competitive Sonic the Hedgehog players, right? So like I myself played Mario when I was growing up. No offense to you Sonic lovers, but as the commercials say, Genesis does what Nintendo don't. I don't know. That commercial probably came out after I was born, or before I was born. But yeah, so at every esports competitor's at some point in every esports competitor's life, they have to make that leap from casual to competitive gameplay. And you mentioned World of Warcraft, you mentioned StarCraft as these games, which are, I could see being, especially StarCraft has a very big competitive community around it, right? You answered one of my questions that I had though, which is how do you do competitive World of Warcraft? And it was the PvP, because I played World of Warcraft, but I just messed around for, I just kind of walked around for a little while, did side quests. But yeah, so what made you want to do that transition to competitive gaming?
So I think it was a natural transition because World of Warcraft is incredible at immersing you into this world and this community where prestige matters, and there's a ranking system, and everybody can see what you rank. They use ELO the same as chess does.
Yeah.
Well, they used to use the same as it. Now they have some funky version of it that makes you play way more hours than you should to bolster the numbers. That's fine. Still, there's a ranking that you can see, and I just wanted that number to go up, and I wanted to play this game at a high level. I wanted to defeat my opponent. I wanted to overcome challenges that were complex, and it was exciting because I was on a team. The most common form of professional World of Warcraft is 3 versus 3 arena, and that's where you have 2 other teammates and you're working together to score a kill first. And there's so many different things that go into it. It's just so exciting to be a part of that action, and it's so easy to enter flow state in that game too. And it's so exciting to be in a state where you kind of like control time and you can slow down time and kind of try to be aware of all these different variables, kind of like a very quick 3-dimensional chess being played. And it's just so exciting for me. And so I think it was natural. It was okay, I want to play a World of Warcraft. Okay, arenas looks really cool. Let's see how we could do there. And over a few months, your rating continues to go up. And then I guess a big transition point was I had gained enough notoriety within the community that when websites started to sponsor players, I knew a contact point, and he said, hey, do you want to come make videos for them? Do you want to do some coaching for them? And so it was a really natural transition. It was just fun in the end. I loved it, like being I'd be a brag, like I'm a professional video game player, right? So it was fun to get to that point naturally.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great feeling when you're just the best at a game that all your friends play. You get this respect. It's just it's a very nice feeling. It's very easy to get into, I think. Yeah, so that's really interesting how you got into competitive gaming. My next question I wanted to ask you is, what advice would you have towards somebody who doesn't really have any experience in the industry, who is maybe just has raw gaming skills, but not really much business savvy, doesn't really have that many connections? What advice could you give to them who is trying to enter the community?
It's tough. I think that advice kind of changes from person to person, but if you're drawn to gaming and you appreciate it and you want to get into it, it's great to go down this path. It can be incredibly challenging. You're going to have to be pretty darn tenacious, but I think my best advice is to be active on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn has incredible returns on investment. Going to events is huge. You can connect with people. People tend to not really hire just cold and raw from a resume. The important positions are often filled through connections and behind closed doors. And you could start to open those doors by going to events and putting yourself out there. We were talking about working for free. That's a great one. Don't do it for too long with the same person, right? You could get taken advantage of, but it's good to get yourself out there, do a few projects with some different entities. There's a few Discords out there that are fantastic for entering the community and talking with other professionals. TSMU's got a Discord where they have events where people from the industry or upcoming students who are trying to get into the industry will just hang out and play games, or they'll go over resumes. There's also the Evil Geniuses Genius League, and that's it's geared towards college students, but they will also they're welcoming of everyone, right? So it's a great place to go and just talk with people and get yourself involved and try to learn and have conversations. So and be active on LinkedIn. That's shit. I think LinkedIn is just fantastic.
Okay, well that's all great advice. Yeah. So talking a little bit more about UC Irvine, which is where we're at right now. I heard that you went through the Esports certification program, a program that I'm actually going through right now. I haven't quite completed it yet, but I just want to know what you thought of the program and if you would recommend it for other people.
All right, so to be clear, I did one class.
Oh, okay.
And it was fantastic. So, and what I learned about, I definitely learned about the industry. I liked the way that they handled the project-based learning. I think I forget exactly what our assignments were, but they all had a really cool output that I could apply to my career. And I think it didn't. I think in the first night we did LinkedIn reviews. So speaking of, that's one area where it helped me realize, this is important. So I would say, get involved, get your feet wet, and at least do one class, see if it's right for you. I think what happened was I kind of got interrupted and got a career opportunity, so I just stopped immediately.
Yeah.
Which means, hey, maybe it worked, right? So I would say definitely check it out. I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask who taught that class?
I don't remember. Goodness, no, I don't remember. I feel terrible that I don't.
But
they were great.
Yeah, no, that's all right. There's some great instructors at UCI for sure. So yeah, I also wanted to know a little bit more about Irvine Valley College and this esports arena that you have there. I see it advertised as a $250,000 esports arena, and that's I'm assuming that was the price to build it, or is that the overall, like the overhaul of I mean, maybe that's just what it's worth. It's a $250,000 esports arena. Just yeah, I wanted to know because we've actually never gone there. We do want to make a visit, but yeah, tell us about this location a little bit.
Yeah, so to be clear, I did my best to inflate that number as much as possible and make sure that every single resource that was put into this was on my resume, right? And so
Yeah.
I put it out there, and I market it as 350,000 now because
Okay.
I had to take into consideration some other things. So that's including payment for remodeling, repainting, doing new carpet, setting up the infrastructure for IT that involves new furnishing, and production equipment and PCs. And I think the retail came out a little bit higher because our students had and myself had worked on getting partnerships for this and getting a discount for the cost. And yeah, so pretty much everything, including renovations.
And the gas it took to get over there. Maybe,
Yeah, yes, that's right.
And I was raising some kids while I was building this arena, so no, I'm just kidding. All right, so yeah, you also mentioned that you were a Cal State Long Beach graduate, because you
That's right.
said go beach. You gestured towards my
100%.
keychain here that it's hanging on by a thread, but it's built beach tough. So yeah, when I was there, they had a moderate sized esports program, but it hadn't really taken off yet. Like they don't have this. I believe they still don't have an esports facility or program or anything like that. So what do you think about this college that basically operates off of people who work for free, people who work in the esports club, which is pretty much what they have right now? What do you think about colleges that are in this position more generally too?
It's an interesting paradigm because you've given students so much freedom because they don't have somebody over the top of them telling them exactly what to do and well, of course they have to follow certain rules, but California, there was this great article, I think a year and a half ago, was written that Southern California is one of the best places to develop your esports career, even though there's so few schools who are supporting them directly. They're often just, as you said, students who are in a club working for free, doing incredible work for free. Long Beach State, especially on a short list of schools, that's just absolutely fantastic. Their teams are super high performing. They have great events, and yeah, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like I said, the students get all this opportunity. They have all this room to really own that space and be the ones who dictate which direction it goes. And I think that's paid off, and their teams and the Southern California teams are performing well as a result. But you also highlight a major area that needs to be improved, which is there's definitely not enough funding that's going into esports and education. Without a doubt, it's undeniably one of the most untapped spaces for education, and it's a shame that the students do have to work free. Like I said, it's great too. But I do wish that wasn't always the case, and I can't even imagine how much better their program would be if it had a certain amount of support. And I think that's a statement that could be made for many schools out there. And it's great to see schools taking the initiative, especially UCI. We also have UCSD doing some things lately. Northridge, I believe, built an arena. UCLA has a little space, and they're under a sports club. So we're definitely seeing a trend in the right direction. And we can see those students who are just so fantastic and already doing great things on their own, see what they're capable of with a little bit of quality support.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about sorry, Paul just gave me a hand sign. It threw me off a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit more about after school programs and the fact that I worked for a YMCA camp, but it's a sleepaway camp that is no technology at all. So it's no cell phones, no iPods, no computers, no nothing. But there's a YMCA program here in California that is the exact opposite. It's like an after-school esports program, or no, sorry, not after school, but it's a sleepaway esports camp program. So that would be just like a complete departure from I guess what you would usually see at sleepaway camps. I was wondering what you think those would look like, and I don't know if you've had any experience with those, but I feel like they might you would mirror kind of after school programs and similar structures like that.
Definitely. I love the kind of forcing our way into this little hidden pocket of culture where I think I definitely can relate to this because I grew up in the 90s where I would go over to, and I'm sure many other students do this, they go over to their friend's place and they play games until 3 a.m. Right? For us, it was like Mortal Kombat or Super Smash Bros, the original 64. So, yeah, I think that's fantastic to kind of insert ourselves into situations that the students are electing to go into and providing some mentorship there, because those moments stick out with me in my youth, thinking about going over to my friend's place and playing video games. And it's also great because something else that's important with esports and education is because many students who gravitate towards esports tend to reject the traditional education model. They choose to go into games often because they're trying to escape what really doesn't resonate with them. And so the fact that in this sleepover type of format that you're discussing, it's kind of like you're going into this other world and you're giving this experience of going into this different world. And that was something I'm hoping to achieve more of with our arena, like we were talking about. And I like we're in this kind of this corner in our own space, and it feels like the students are stepping into their own space that's theirs. It's something that's a part of them. And I think that's powerful to be a part of that picture of their interests.
Absolutely. It's very powerful. Yeah. So at our camp, we talk about kids having a third place. So kids have their home, they have school. Usually we talk about our camp as it's like a third place or a third community that you have in addition to those two. And yeah, that's just having that extra community, that extra support is just so important for developing youth. And yeah, no, it's just, I can't underline how important that is.
Yeah, that resonates with me big time. On that topic, I definitely developed a certain personality on World of Warcraft, and I developed a certain confidence and leadership skills through that game, and that third world for me felt the most important. And it's great that we could tap into that and bring it over, so much so that if I was ever in a moment where I had a lot of pressure on myself, I don't do this anymore. I mean, sometimes I'll pull this out, but I'll like hype myself up and be like, you got this. Like, I would say like, you're Gladiator. And then I'd say my World of Warcraft name. I don't want to dox myself a little bit too hard, but those gamers got to watch out for them. But it was like, you are this person. And now we're going to introduce that personality. And it's a shame because I think students kind of do retreat in education. And it's fantastic that third world, very, very huge. And that's also where they're making a lot of friends these days too. So it's an impactful area to be working with.
Especially in the COVID era where like a lot of these kids are doing online schools and stuff, and it's just harder for them to connect, but yeah, it's very, very important. So I wanted to wrap things up by asking you what your favorite video game of all time is. Doesn't necessarily have to be an esport.
Favorite video game. Okay. Yeah, I think I do have to give it to World of Warcraft 100%. I guess a good way to explain just how incredible I think that game, and this is the older version of the game, by the way. I loved
Vanilla WoW.
Yeah, TVC, Wrath, all that stuff. I hear Dragonflight's great. Awesome. But not for me, not my style anymore. But the older version, I would rather have my child drop out of school at 3rd grade and play World of Warcraft to prepare them for life than continue to spend time in public education right now. That's how great I think World of Warcraft can be. So I think that's my favorite game for sure.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on our program, Adam. We love having you on here, and we really appreciate you. And this is the Esports Connection signing off. We'll see you next time.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time to the Esports Connection right here on OC Talk Radio. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beal Applied Innovation Center.